But I'm Katie Maloney. I am the Administrative Specialist with the Hanley Center for Health Leadership and Education. And if you are familiar with us from last year, you may be noticing that our logo looks different. That is because we are currently undergoing rebranding. This is our new logo. And we no longer are called the Daniel Hanley Center for Health Leadership, but as I said, the Hanley Center for Health Leadership and Education. So as you look at our stuff, you may be wondering if we're the same organization. We are. Just a little rebranding, slowly unrolling. So you will start to notice that as the program goes on. But we're happy to have you all. I not only do the administrative stuff, but I also coordinate our internship program as well as do a lot of the marketing in the organization. So that is why I'm here. You will not hear from the other 3 people on our team. I will give you their information later, but they are off, some with family and some doing some other tasks tonight. So I will tell you a little bit about us. So for those of you who aren't familiar with us, we are a small nonprofit. We're Maine-based, but we do work outside of Maine as well. We primarily focus on leadership development for people in health and healthcare. And that can be people who work in the state, people who work on more medical or clinical aspects of the field. It's a wide range. But we also work with undergraduates in our internship program. So our vision from the internship program to the healthcare leaders we work with is to develop and educate leaders from young all the way up to, 60s, 70s, 80s, whoever's in our courses. I don't know about 80s, that was probably extreme exaggeration, but hang on one second, let me go back here. But to educate leaders so they can tackle the healthcare challenges that we are currently still having, post-COVID world that we live in. You can see this is one picture here from our internship program when we get together during the day, and I will talk more about that later. So about our internship program, we run a summer internship program. Organizations across the state send their internships to us. I do all the formatting. I put them on our website come the new year, and then they are posted for students to apply to. And then by summertime, us and our 3 advisors, who I will introduce, although you heard us all talking shortly, but we get together, we match them, and we put them with organizations across the state of Maine, and they work there for the summer in a paid internship. So what we aim to do is we aim to connect students who have a strong Maine connection in some way, shape, or form. That can be anything from I would visit my grandparents every summer there, or we had a vacation home there for my whole childhood, or we have people obviously who were born and raised in Maine who love it. We had someone last year whose parents met in Maine at school, even though she was from Kentucky, and she loved it here, and she planned to stay here after graduation. So the connections are vast, but we're looking for people who have that connection to the state, because the goal eventually is to get these young people to stay, or if they leave, to want to come back to remember all the great opportunities that they had while they were undergraduates, and one of those hopefully being the internship they have through our program and through the organizations that host through our program as well. So that's a little bit about the mission. We've placed roughly, these are estimates here, but 300 plus interns across the state since we started. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a lot more than that. And then 40 plus organizations at least have hosted with us across the state. And we've been going since 2012. So it's a good amount of time, a good amount of impact that's been had across the state, and a lot of opportunities for these undergraduates in their studies. So something, I try not to read these verbatim off the PowerPoint, but something I do want to point out is these are paid summer internships. They are not credit-based. They're not offered for credit. They are strictly paid. And then the host sites determine the pay for that, and they include that in their job description, which I upload again come the new year. But obviously the hope for this through the interns is that they build a network within not only their cohort, But as we bring other interns in, like alumni, and this year we're adding a new element of virtual seminars. So guest speakers, they kind of get to network with these people, and then also the people at their organizations that they're working with, and they really get to build that network and develop more opportunities through that. Okay. I will pause eventually for questions. We're gonna have a lot of time, I think, extra, so we can go over questions. But I'm sure the first thing before I say, are there any questions? It'll be about the application process. So, the application process is pretty straightforward. It's all done online, as you can see. So this is our current webpage. If you were to go onto our site, this is what it looks like. Again, actually, and I will point out that right now on our site is the old logo, but as of this week, they should start unrolling and uploading the new logo to the site. So you'll see that transition as you go to the site. The colors may look different and so on. Again, you're still on the same website. We're just kind of doing a slow rollout of the rebranding. So don't be thrown if you see that. But what we have at the top here, so we have summer health internships, that will stay, so that won't change with the rebranding. You can just click there, and once they get there, they'll end up on a page that looks like this. And then right now, if you were to go to this page, you would see it says, do you want to be a host site? So the applications for the students are closed. What I do on the back end of the site is I go in the new year, and then I swap out and I make the right-hand side of the web page open for students to apply, and then that'll lead them to the application. So on the right-hand side, there will be a blue sidebar that says apply, and that'll be for them to go to. And then there's other links obviously here, and they can view prior opportunities among other pages that I'm sure they'll click around and explore. To apply, students need a resume, and we'll talk about these, especially the advisors. We'll talk about these pieces too. So resume, a cover letter for each position applied to. I have seen cover letters that are copy and pasted and used for the same, or the different organizations. It's the same cover letter that they'll use for 3 different roles. I'm sure you all know by this point that that's not advised. So we'll talk, or the advisors will probably too talk about that. But if you can please encourage them to differentiate each cover letter, even obviously not the whole thing. Sometimes it's not realistic for them, but the first paragraph, personalize it, adjust what they need to make it for each cover letter that they do, for each position they're applying to. Unofficial transcripts, they don't need to be official. They don't need to be mailed, anything like that. Unofficial is totally fine. Sorry, I got a thing with doing this. Letter of recommendation, on the application that they are filling out will be a section with a link to the web page that the recommender will need to fill out. So they'll be able to grab that link and then send it to whoever they need to, who they're choosing to have write their recommendation for them. So that's something separate for them to do. It doesn't stop them from submitting their application. They can still submit it. They'll just send the webpage to whoever they choose to write their recommendation for. We ask that they only do 1 recommendation. We've had students do multiple in the past, but typically with the amount of students who apply to the program, 1 recommendation is really the capacity that we have to look at, and also getting 1 quality one rather than 3 that maybe just aren't as great will be much more beneficial to their application. So we encourage students to, not that their professors probably all aren't great, but choose someone who they think they have a strong connection with and they understands them the most and their goals. Important dates. So January 6th. That's one showing up. January 6th. Hello to the person just joining us. I'm sorry, I missed your name. I'm multitasking. January 6th is when internships and applications open. January 13th is a student virtual info session night. So that's kind of like this for them. So it's more student oriented. The students last year asked this at info session if like they applied before, if they should change anything, or they don't have to apply on January 6th. If they would rather wait for the info session, that's totally fine. This is not a race. I'm sure you guys probably all know that too. But just stress that to them, that if they're just, they just feel better waiting for the info night, please let them know they can do that. And I will, as I'm marketing the info session night 2, I will obviously, I will be marketing that also, putting it out on social media, that, you know, applications are open, but we do have an info session coming up if you want to wait, and then get it in. February 23rd is when they are due. So that is the deadline they should care about. And then March and April is when positions will be finalized and we will be notifying students. It's sort of an ongoing process as we match students, especially when students are applying to multiple different programs, different organizations. We have offered positions to students and then they said, oh, I took one somewhere else, or we've offered them and then something's come up, or, you know, and things are shifting. So it's an ongoing process, and we always tell students when you are committing to an internship that you are committing to this fully. So we have that whole discussion with them. But that being said, as positions are shifting and some get added late from host sites or so on, there's a bit of a delay in how things are finalized. And once they're finalized, I will then send out an email to the cohort. They will know individually, but then I will send a group email to the whole finalized cohort, and I will be in touch with them about virtual orientation, which is May 19th. That is an hour and a half. It's straightforward. We talk to them about the program, what to expect. The past 2 years, we've had Martins Point come in and talk about professionalism in the workplace and what internships or a great intern from their perspective is like as a host site. So it's just sort of that precursor to kicking off the program. And then June and late June, early July, and then late July. So these 3 dates at the end are still to be determined. This year, we are looking to implement, I shouldn't say we're looking, but we are going to be implementing required virtual seminars. And we're going to do 2 of them. The students have really enjoyed getting together a lot. That tends to be one of their favorite aspects of the program, and understandably, because they can all network and talk about their experiences. And that gets really difficult to do geographically. So what we're going to do this year is we're going to have a virtual seminar. We're going to be centering them around specific topics, and then they will be discussing them, and we are planning to bring in guest speakers, but all of this is, the details haven't been finalized yet, so we're still planning that part of it. And then, so we're hoping maybe like early June is virtual seminar 1, and then late June is virtual seminar 2, and then mid-July to late July will be that leadership day. And leadership day is not virtual. That will be in person, typically at the Schiller Coastal Study Center. I know our advisor Val, who was on this call, we're working out the details of reserving it still. It's pretty early on for us. So that will all get posted too. I will update that as soon as I know more, but I think for now, the most important dates naturally are their applications and the deadlines there, and any questions around that. So I want to pause there and take a breath and ask if anyone has questions about the dates or logistics for that. And you can unmute yourself too if you just want to unmute. Okay. All right, I will move on. We're already at the advisor advice. This is going really fast. I feel like I hope I'm not talking too fast, but we have our wonderful advisors who are part of this program. And we have Dr. Seth Ramitz, retired from Bowdoin College. I almost want to say, Seth, I almost want to say reluctantly retired, but still enjoying it nonetheless. But he's a wonderful addition to our program. Then we have Kate Ashton from Kobe College, Director for Health Professions Advising, and then Val Bennett, who is new to our program, also from Bowdoin, and Director for Health Professions Advising. These 3 give a lot of time to our program and do a lot of great things in helping these students out. So I would love to, I forget who Seth, Kate, and Val, who we said was going first, but just open the floor to you. So please take the floor.
Hi, everyone. Gosh, it's good to see all of my friends out there. And you know, the reality is that Kate and I have been a part of this program since its inception, more than a dozen years ago. And this is something that is sort of near and dear to our hearts. It's a remarkable experience for the students. We've worked really hard to make it a program where they learn a lot, where they make great connections. We have a great group at the Hanley Center that finds extraordinary mentors for these students. So that by and large, the people who are putting forth these internships have gone through the leadership program, and they're really looking to bring people, young people, under their wings and give them opportunities. So it's a great experience. Um, we will be reading the applications, the three of us, for sure, along with some other friends from other Maine schools. And so what we're really hoping for you guys to do is to help us to get the right students. And that really means helping your students to tell their story. So obviously this is a Maine-based internship. My favorite application of all time began, although this internship is in Maine, obviously, we did not grant that person an internship, really sort of help them to think about their story and how they fit into a Maine-based internship. As Katie said, they don't have to be Mainers, but they should have some sort of strong connection to Maine or rural states. And rural is really important. Maine is a very rural place. And in fact, I believe we have specific funding this year to bring in students interested in working in rural medicine. And so having your students in their application materials really sort of make sure that we can see those kinds of things, why they would benefit from this particular internship. I do want to emphasize again that it is not for credit, and students should not be asking for credit. It's a paid internship, and we've made this decision very consciously because we want students to be compensated for their work. And then if we are asking a site to offer credit on top of that, we're asking our sites to do additional work, which we don't want to do. Anyway, we'll be reading these applications. I'm going to jump in probably a couple of times while the other advisors introduce themselves, but I'll turn it over to Val now.
Thanks, Seth. Hey, everybody, I'm Val Bennett. I inherited Seth's job here at Bowdoin since he retired, but loving it. And last year got connected with the Hanley Center and this internship program, which I think is amazing. Even though the 2025 internship opportunities have not yet been posted, and we're still recruiting those opportunities, they will be posted on January 6th, but you can still view the list of internship opportunities from from last summer. What really impressed me being new to this program was the really broad diversity of different organizations and different types of internships that are available. I work primarily with pre-med students, and often they are looking for research or clinical experience, but I'm really encouraging even my pre-med students to think more broadly about what it means to work in healthcare. And so you'll see a really impressive diversity of opportunities, but I encourage them to think very broadly about what it means to be part of one of these healthcare organizations. And you will see some research, some more clinical. Those tend to be extremely popular, especially among the pre-health and pre-med students. However, it means a lot to be involved in mental health, in community needs assessments, in human resources, in IT. And all of those roles are integral parts of healthcare teams with these organizations, especially in under-resourced or rural communities. So I really encourage students to think very broadly, because even if they are not necessarily getting clinical experience, they are part of an organization that may have clinicians. And so part of internships is about the networking that they can potentially do. So a great strategy, I think, being on this committee last year we had a very high number of applications and preferences for some of the positions in Portland or the clinical or research opportunities. Encourage your students to read the position descriptions carefully so that they know what they're actually applying for. And to, going back to what Katie was saying, really tailor their materials for that position, but to really be open-minded about what they're applying for also. We usually encourage students to apply to multiple positions. And so some of the clinical ones and research ones get a huge number of applications, but maybe some of the ones in the more rural areas or that are at organizations, but not necessarily a direct clinical role, had many fewer applications. And so there's a lot less competition for some of those positions. So if you have students who are applying who are willing to be open-minded and consider some of the what they may perceive as less relevant opportunities for their pre-med goals, encourage them to be open-minded and apply. For those of you who work in career services, this is also a great opportunity to spread the word about these internship opportunities to your colleagues in career services, to majors who are not necessarily pre-med, who may be interested in IT or human resources or some of those other areas as well, because it's still a great way to get them connected to these research opportunities. And with that, I will kick things over to Kate to talk a little more about those application materials.
Sure, and thank you. Coming from Colby College, like Seth said, I've been involved with this program since it was a series of idea development meetings here in Maine in about 2011, and it's been wonderful to see it grow into this really solid program. I'll just give, before I talk about resumes and cover letters, I'll just also give an example of a Colby student who actually did a summer internship that was more in human resources. And yet, because he got to work with a wide variety of employees, ended up realizing that what he wanted to do and pursue is going to nursing school. This is a Colby College football player, about a foot taller than I am. And he is currently applying to accelerated nursing programs to move on and probably go into advanced practice nursing. So these internships truly do, I've seen it many times, influence students' directions and goals in very positive and supportive ways. I want to talk just a little bit about application materials. I've mentioned to Katie earlier that even my students don't necessarily run their applications by me before they submit them. But as you talk with students about this program, I do encourage you to encourage them to use resources that are available to them, to proofread and give them advice about the formatting of their cover letter and resume. We get some that are just downright terrible, honestly, and I will say, in true Maine fashion, often we see beyond that. And last year we had one candidate that we felt was really strong, had terrible materials, and as somebody who has worked in a career center for 31 years, I have strong feelings about this, but she was assigned to me to reach out to and counsel about her resume and cover letter before we would pass her name along to the site that we had selected her for. She and I went back and forth and improved her application materials so that by the time she submitted them to the site we were recommending her for, they were in much better condition. But we just don't have the bandwidth to do that with everybody. So I do strongly urge you to encourage your students to make use of their career centers, to have somebody take a look at their resume and cover letter and not just adopt a a format from the web that may not really present them in the best light possible. I will echo Katie's comments about the cover letter. There should be something in each cover letter that is specific to the position they are applying for, and not exactly, we do look at all of them. They do get to pick 3, or is it 4 of them, Katie, that they can apply to. They can't apply to all of them. There's a limit, but they can apply to 3. And we do look at all of them, all of the materials that they send in. So we are seeing, the committee that is reviewing these is seeing all of their cover letters, their exact same cover letters. Provide you with the opportunity to have a conversation with your students about that when they apply. And now I think we have some questions in the chat. Seth, you were going to answer.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just reiterate that students should be really thoughtful about what the requirements of the individual sites are. Don't assume that if it's a social media internship that we all know that they're fantastic at social media because that's where they live, that there should be something in their resume because I have to send their application to an HR department at the site. So really sort of help us to see their skills in their cover letters rather than a generic cover letter. So a couple of questions that came up, and I think it's worth answering these live as well. We have solicited the sites to pay the students. We don't pay them, so individual sites are paying them. They are not huge stipends, but they tend to be competitive in the in Maine. They do vary from site to site, as do the number of hours. Some of the internships will likely be hybrid, some may be entirely remote, some may be entirely in person. And we will try to help a student find housing, but we don't have a lot of resources. So students should think about where they are applying and whether or not they have connections or family or friends in the area that they may want to share with. Some of the sites will be close to the UMaine system or one of the other systems that will rent them a dorm room for the summer. And we have had students who have rented a house. Again, it's really hard to find housing in Portland, Maine. It can be easier to find housing in some of the other parts of Maine. So students should think broadly beyond the greater Portland area. There are some really amazing internships. We often have one with the Maine Medical Association. So these students are working in actually meeting state legislators. You guys have no idea how small Maine is. I personally know all of my representatives and senators, and that's not atypical for Maine. I'm not tooting my horn here. This is a very small state. We certainly know all of our state representatives and interact with them in our neighborhoods. And so it's a place where people really get to see the sausage being made if they're working with the Maine Medical Association. And of course that doesn't jump out to the student who wants to fiddle around on the insides of people for the summer. Or is looking to get research experience, but probably a much more rewarding experience in the long run. The other question that we had that I think is worth touching on is whether or not we accept non-matriculated students. Some of our best interns have been people who were looking to fill a summer between college and a master's program or something like that. we really try to focus on current students. Even within that, we try to focus on older students. So a first year student is likely to be considered most if they were applying towards one of the more rural sites, or if they had a very strong connection to a particular site. So again, I would steer those students away from the more popular ones that you can imagine. Um, uh, we have taken non-matriculated students, but they should be really clear as to why they aren't getting a job. And really, I think it's even more important that they make a good reason for why this particular internship program is important for their career. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Thanks, Seth. Thank you, Val, and thank you, Kate. I would love to add on to this from a hot off the press take. We, as of this morning, my colleague Janelle and I were working on, we are adjusting the essay questions on the application a little bit. They are pretty much how they were last year, and what we're really looking for, we're trying to make them, we're separating them now. There will be 3 questions, and we're primarily looking for what their connection is to Maine, which we've stressed, what sort of adversity or health inequities or what types of situations have they encountered that are really driving them to want to work in health or healthcare. And then my mind is going to lose track of the other one. Those are the 2 biggest ones. And the third one, I wish it would come to me now. Of course, it's not going to, but you will see it on the application. So when they're looking at the application, I've seen essays too that kind of go completely off the rails and don't actually answer the essay question at all. And the other thing I thought of as you guys were speaking is the new addition of ChatGPT, AI coming into the world. So as they go to answer these essay questions, if students are using AI, or I would push to make sure that they are aware that it's like, we really want to hear from them as much as possible, and not what they think that they want us to hear. We really want to hear, like, I forget if it was Seth who mentioned this, but their story. We want to know why they're interested, and their career goals was the other question that we're going to have. So we really want to know about them, what they're interested in, and how they've gotten to where they are and made the decisions. So we're really looking for that strong connection. And those are the students that will stand out. So we don't need them going to ChatGPT or whatever artificial intelligence they're going to use to write a super profound, I mean, we want it to be well written, but we really care about their story, what motivates them, and their plans and their connection to the state. So that's really what we're looking for when we are reading these applications. In addition to, obviously, of course, we look at their grades and all of that, but we really care about their motivations and who they are and their stories. So that's really big to us at the Hanley Center and our mission as well. And hello to the person who just joined. We're kind of at the question and answer part of this. And then the housing piece too, I just wanted to address. We do have some rural internships that regularly host with us. And I would just encourage, if you have students who are interested in them, but they're like 45 minutes of a commute, like if they have to, one of the rural internships I can think of is typically in person, and they live 45 minutes away. It's a toss-up to say this, but we had a student last year who commuted just under an hour every day to get to her internship, but it was only for a few weeks. And so when I talked to her about it, she was kind of torn if she could do it or she should do it, and if she would basically keep her sanity driving. And I didn't blame her. As someone who used to do an hour and 20 minutes on a good day through Boston, I understood. So if you have students like that, just encourage them to think about, it's for a certain amount of time. If they can do it, if they're interested in the internship, to really extend their thoughts outside of Portland or Southern Maine and keeping that short commute. Because even though it may feel like a lot when they're doing it, it's such a short time and a huge benefit to their future to really build those connections and get that experience. So if they're interested in those rural internships too, definitely, encourage them to think outside the box. But yeah, so are there other questions that we can answer for any of you guys tonight? I know, Megan, you joined late, but I am recording this, so I'm happy to send this out to you guys as well after, so I can do that.
Thanks so much. I just had another meeting that was conflict.
Yeah, not a problem, not a problem. I'll send that out for sure. Other questions?
Katie, do you want to just move on to the next slide with the,
Yeah,
while we're answering questions? Thanks.
there we go. These are, who was that? Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, I don't know. I should have maybe used the raise hand function.
Okay.
I'm Chu-Young Shim from UMA in Augusta. I'm a new member here. Previous advisor, she retired, and she just provide me with this information. But so my first question is that I assume, so I'm a pre-med student advisor, assume that this is for students who are interested in pre-med track or pre-dental or in a healthcare profession, but also, I don't know, during the presentation, in maybe different profession that are related to healthcare professions, such as, we have students from, say, data science who might be interested in the data in healthcare system. Are they also eligible, or is it more like a pre-med track?
Yes.
No,
Oh.
we'd love to get students who are interested outside of pre-med. We have students we almost always have IT kinds of positions. We've had marketing positions, HR, of course. So students interested in healthcare administration. And yes, please help us to find those students who are not just the pre-med students.
Yeah.
Okay, because that really changes where I need to relay this information to, because we have like two different colleges, one for professional studies where there are data science people, the information system people, and the college I'm in is more like biology. I'm a biology faculty. So that really opens up that I should maybe present this to the other college.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have had internships, everything from, I'm trying to remember clinical. I'm not a clinical person in any realm. So I can't recall titles exactly, but the more clinical ones are Jackson Laboratory, Neuroscience Institute. We had Maine Cancer, but I think they're Maine Cancer specialists, but they were more research based. So it's sort of, but we've also had HR at Sweetser. We've had IT at Sweetser. Sweetser is one that commonly will give us some that are more out of that clinical pre-med realm. They'll give us communications, I think 1 year, marketing, HR. So there are other things that are just within health or healthcare organizations that are not clinically based. And so it's great to have those students too, who maybe they're sophomores, even juniors sometimes, who are a little bit, they want to learn behind the scenes that can benefit them too. So while we obviously welcome all of the pre-med or clinical students who are thinking in that realm, we also want to pull in the others as well, because there will be some of those. Yes, Seth.
I would just add, conversely, we often have students, for example, we've had a number of HR internships with Intermed. Intermed is the largest private practice in the state of Maine. And for that pre-med student might be worried about HR internship, but would in fact learn a lot about how medicine is really done and how practice is actually run in the modern age. And so it's been a very, very rewarding internship for the students who have done that. And again, almost all of these are run by mentors who are graduates of the Hanley program, and they know and want these students to have a good experience and to get engaged. And so they will help them if they are getting their work done. They will help them find the kinds of opportunities they might actually be seeking in doing shadowing or informational interviews or things like that. So they shouldn't put themselves into boxes either as applicants or in their career aspirations.
May I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I
The
hope you're going to
other-
read applications with us.
It's possible. So the other question is, so I guess just a little bit about me. I'm teaching at UMA in Augusta campus as well as Bangor campus. I teach primarily anatomy and physiology and pathophysiology. So I get a lot of students who wants to work at these sites that I'm seeing here. But at the same time, I do have a lot of students who live in rural area. So from Bangor campus all the way up to, close to Presque Isle, Millinocket, in Augusta campus, the western Maine, west of, Lewiston, Auburn area. So we have very different student bodies than Bowdoin and Colby. So myself, I graduated Bates College. I was in pre-med track, and later I switched to research. But so I kind of experienced firsthand, what students can get from Bowdoin, Colby, Bates versus UMA. So my question is, I would say 90% of my students are working while they're attending. They're older students, a lot of veterans. So I think the internship, so my question is, how much do you, on average, I know it's different from year to year, site to site, what kind of, I guess, hours or dedication they have to plan? Because I don't think they need to work even though they're doing the internship. That makes sense.
So they're paid they're paid for their internships, and so some of them are full-time, some of them are part-time, and it depends upon the site. I also heard the sort of, Bowdoin versus UMaine. And one of the things that we're very conscious about when we are reading these applications is making sure that all schools are represented. I know that there are 3 liberal arts college advisors on this, but it's not because we give all of the internships to Bowdoin. We're very conscious about making sure that all schools are represented as much as possible.
Okay, that sounds good. So it could be full-time internship.
Correct.
And also, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the key is when the positions are posted to just read through them carefully so that applicants are choosing ones that fit their needs.
And as we've also been talking about, there are sites all over the state, and so we are looking for students that are from more rural areas and often have internships that go either very poorly applied for or even unfilled because they are in more rural areas. And so any student who is from Presque Isle or Millinocket or someplace should really be keeping a good eye on things, because we might have an internship near them.
Right, we've had internships in Machias, Presque Isle, Western Maine, Augusta, as well as, you know, of course, the popular Portland area.
Yeah. Great, thanks. Any other questions?
I do. You know, I had participated in a couple of the review days, you know, the all days reading files, but haven't for a couple of years now. Part of it was my schedule books out a month in advance, you know, and if are file readings going to be on their own, or is there plans for a day, and can we get that day, you know, labeled in beginning of January? I'd certainly like to be more involved again, but you know, right now, I mean, students are booking on my calendar for November 20th, right? You know, and so it just becomes impossible to move 7, 8, 9 students when that day is announced, you know.
We'd love to have you with us, James.
Yes, James.
Thank you, Dave.
The
Thanks, Deb.
merrier.
And don't we have a date?
We do, and I say I can stop sharing my screen and pull it up. I usually am on 2 monitors, and today I'm on 1. I believe it's, I don't know why March 29th stands out to me.
March 10th.
Oh, I was way off. Well, I was in the right month.
March 10th at Colby.
So we do, and then I
June
also
4.
will send them ahead of time. At least, I think, I don't remember what I did last year. It was at least a couple weeks, I think, before. Once the applications all close, I send all the information to all the advisors who are on that committee. So we can all take a look at them. And last year, I believe we divvied them up, or we tried to. I don't quite, it's honestly a little foggy to me how it went last year.
We've got it
only
down.
2 years in, but
Yep.
we read them ahead of time, and then we all meet up at Kobe. So yeah, James, we would love to have you.
Yeah, so Monday, March 10th?
Yes, 12 to 4.
Yeah.
Colby.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so
And I'll chime in as the new person who joined last year and got to be part of that review committee. I think that was really helpful for me as an advisor to learn just about Maine, about the different opportunities and different organizations, and understand the process. I feel like I'm going to do a much better job kind of encouraging students to apply and how to apply for these internships after sitting on the review committee. And of course, we have a good review group and good conversation that we, you know, can recuse ourselves if we're reviewing our own applicants and things like that too. So we definitely try and make sure that we are fairly reviewing all the applicants.
And I'll just say that, you know, any of you advisors would be welcome to join us, but probably it's easier if you're in Maine to come on up. Colby is central to those who are in the north and in the south, and so we're happy to host here.
yeah, reading chat, a couple of people discussing that possibility in chat. So thank you, and for volunteering to join us. That would be wonderful. I will make sure to send you a calendar invite. And if you've chatted with me or James, I know you were speaking out loud, I will send you calendar invites for that, and we can be in touch. But that would be great. And then I guess any other questions we want to discuss, and again, I will send the recording out to those who are here. And Megan, I did get your message in the chat, so I'll make sure to send that. But otherwise, my last slide was just going to be contact information. I can put my email directly in the chat for you all. I'll send that right now. So you can reach out to me. I know you guys probably all have Seth, Kate, and maybe Val's email. Val, I don't know how new technically you are, or I don't know how the advisors search for everyone's email, but you probably all have each other's email, so but I am more than happy to reach out, or you guys can reach out to me anytime and I will answer any questions that I can help. And if I can't, I have easy access to resources as these three wonderful advisors and then my Hanley team as well, who I can either figure something out or direct you to someone who does have the answer. But if it's UHLI based, please come to me. I am in charge of coordinating the program, and then any advisor stuff, we can get you squared away that way too with Seth, Kate, or Val. Will you send the slides? Yes, I will send slides as well. Definitely. And I will send that by tomorrow. So it's almost 5 p.m. now, so I'm not going to promise today, but I will send it by end of the day tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. Well, awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate your interest in the program, and we look forward to the students who apply this year. So reach out anytime and have a wonderful evening. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.